What terrifying confession has someone told you while intoxicated? Serious replies only. Man dying of AIDS said I could charge my entire bar tab to his credit card because he was going to die soon. Edit. It was me and a few friends watching football, so our tab was probably plus $200. But I was talking to him for a while before he said this. I think he was lonely and scared, so we just watched football with him for the rest of the afternoon. Made him feel welcome and normal at least for a while. Just wanted what the rest of us do, to not feel alone and that someone cares. I believe his name was Ron. Edit 2. This was in 2001. A deleted user said, someone told me that their dad would go out intoxicated and sleep on their porch. One night their mom went out searching for him because he wasn't there, got in the car, and pulled out of the driveway. Turns out their dad fell asleep on the driveway and was ran over, killed. I don't know if the story is true. I don't even know the person who told me. Just some random dude who I went out drinking with sometime later that week. I still think about that story from time to time. Really stuck with me. Remarkable Echo said, my dad told me while he was drunk that the reason him and my mom divorced is because she slept with his best friend, who is now my stepdad, and they have my brother. I nearly effing fainted as I spent the last 20 years being lied to, as I had no idea. Soulfighter56 said, freshman year of college, among all the new friends I made that year, there was one guy who was always a goofball, very laid back, casual, down for whatever. The biggest red flag we got from him was that whenever people were drinking and hanging out, he would always essentially black out. He drank way too much and would kind of spaghetti noodle his way around the party. While also intoxicated, after the party had winded down one night, a few people and I asked him why he always goes so damn hard. While drooping his head a ton, sloshing around, and slurring everything, he told us about how a few months ago, the summer before college started, his best friend called him. They lived in a small town by the beach, and his friend asked him to come meet him to watch the sunset by the water. He biked over there, sat down, and they talked for a while. Everything seemed fine. Then his friend took out a pistol and shot himself in the head, killing himself instantly. Apparently, my friend had to call the police while covered in blood, brains, and skull fragments, just totally in shock. And then a few weeks later, he went off to college a few states away, still in shock and unable to sleep or focus on anything. He didn't remember telling us that story, and I don't think any of us wanted to bring it up. His drinking habits didn't change until he was about to graduate, by which point he started going to therapy, got a job right after graduation, and seems to be doing better in the years since. Thank God. Another user said, not terrifying, more depressing. A few years ago, my dad came to me while he was a bit tipsy and tried to talk to me about my depression. Back then, it was very new to us, and it was a struggle to open up about it when out of the blue, he starts sobbing. Keep in mind, I had never seen my dad cry before. He tells me that him and my mom met while she was a stripper and he was a bartender at the same club, that he always regretted where they came from. They also abused drugs before they got pregnant with me, and how he wished he could take the pain away from me and deal with it himself because he knew how it felt. He talked about how he was so desperate to make sure our family was financially stable and happy that he would have done anything to take the depression away. Before that, I'd only ever seen him as a slightly annoying dad and didn't bond with him much. After though, I took the time to really get to know him as more than just my dad. Now he's my best friend. In a way, him being tipsy that afternoon and opening up to me is the reason I have such a healthy relationship with him. This user commented, when I was about 18, I worked for a moving company. They'd hired just about anybody that could lift heavy things, so I worked with all kinds of colorful characters. This one day, I was out with this really old guy who is super old school and a real alcoholic. Our first move of the day was in a homosexual area of town in Toronto, and on the drive down, my colleague was making a whole bunch of gay jokes. There was nothing I could really say or do, so I just kept quiet and kept on driving. The whole move was really difficult. The apartment hallways were really narrow. The apartment was right at the end of a very long hallway, the elevator was tiny, and the apartment itself had 2 stories with the windy, narrow staircase connecting them. When we finally got there, I knocked on the door, and when it opened, the man who answered was literally bawling his eyes out. I looked at my colleague who was looking at this gay man crying very deeply, and my colleague turned to me and said, "I'll be in the truck," and walked away and wouldn't help me with the move at all. Turns out the guy who owned the apartment was moving into palliative care because he had AIDS and was dying. I did that whole move myself, and I'll never forget how devastated that man was as I took all his stuff out of that house. I just wish there was something I could say to help him, but there wasn't, so I just did my job. Zombie Jesus comment says, my uncle told me he was as a child by an older friend. That explains a lot of his problems. TechSmith's post says, I was at a bar one night in an affluent town. An old guy next to me started talking about his sailing days. He had a 60-foot sailboat and used to sail all over North and South America. His story was from the mid 1980s. He said one night he was anchored near an island off the coast of Venezuela. He was with his girlfriend and they had just fallen asleep when he heard a bump. At first, he didn't think much of it, barely noticed it, but decided to check it out. He left the sleeping berth and, like in most sailboats, there are a set of steep stairs to climb to get from the cabin to the aft deck. He said he always kept a pistol holstered and hanging from the side of the stair rail. As an afterthought, he grabbed his pistol as he was climbing the stairs. Once he was about halfway out on deck, he saw a man coming over the railing with an automatic weapon, like an assault rifle, a AR-15 or something like that. He said he put 2 rounds into the guy and he fell back over the railing. He ran over and looked down. The guy had fallen into his boat and there was another guy there also armed with an assault rifle. He said he shot that guy a couple of times, pulled up anchor, and got out of there. He said that pirate activity was not unheard of around there, and people like this would board your boat, tie you up, and take everything. Then they would torch the boat with you on it. The bump he had heard was the other boat coming up aside his boat. He said that was his last visit to South America. If you enjoyed the stories, leave a like, tell me which one got you the most, and subscribe if you want to hear more. I'll see you in the next one.